First of all, we have our political editor, Daryl Huff of KITV4, Professor Neil Milner from the University of Hawaii, and who's also our political analyst and a political reporter, long time with the Honolulu Star Bulletin, Richard Barreca. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. We're talking about the Star Bulletin and KITV4 poll numbers that had come out this week. And let's talk about the special election and the three candidates there. Daryl, were you surprised by these results? And tell us what these results were.
Sure. We'll go through them really quickly. In a special election, if held today, it's actually most likely to be held in May. We have Ed Case pretty soundly ahead, 37%, Colleen Hanabusa at 25%, Charles Dejoux, the Republican, at 17%, a fairly good size undecided, about a fifth of the voters. And then moving on to the general, Case beats Dejoux by 52% if those are the candidates, and Hanabusa beats Dejoux by 43%.
Wow.
43% to 36%. In a general election. So they both beat Dejoux in a general election.
And we'll start with you, Professor Milner. Are you surprised that Ed Case is showing so well here?
Actually, I'm not surprised. I think that, first of all, he had a head start here. And secondly, if there is going to be any effect of the senior senators, or our two senators, U.S. senators, endorsing Hanabusa and really very much attacking Case, it's going to take a while, and I don't think it's going to be that successful. I want to say something about Joux's chances. The numbers can be a little bit misleading for a number of reasons, especially in the special. First of all, he doesn't do badly in terms of recognition. Secondly, the special election is a winner-take-all election, so you need a plurality. And the third thing is that in his heart of hearts, what he hopes, and this could happen, is that if there is a real primary fight between Case and Hanabusa, one of the things that happens in these kinds of situations is that voters get ambivalent. Democratic supporters of either candidate get ambivalent, and they back away. They don't vote. If Joux can bring out a high turnout, a relatively high turnout in a special, the way, say, Adams did in Massachusetts, he does have a chance in the special. But it's, again, the Republicans start with a historical handicap because they're the minority party here.
Wouldn't that be fascinating if Dejoux managed to win that special election? I think you would find that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party would be moving everything they could out to Honolulu to fight that race, because it could turn out to be they're defending Obama's home territory. That could be a major race across the country.
But, you know, really, though, we're really talking about it. Two people clearly leading, yes. Ed Case and Colleen Hanabusa, and that has a lot of interesting aspects right there. We were talking earlier about how Ed Case is kind of in a perfect position, and today the legislature opens up. Hanabusa has a chance to paint herself with all kinds of problems in this legislature.
I was talking to the head of the Finance Committee yesterday evening, Marcus Oshiro, and he was saying, he says, boy, Colleen has really got to step down as Senate President. It's going to be really difficult for her to do the tough things that everyone in the legislature anticipates they're going to do, including raising taxes. At the same time, she's running in an area where she's never run before, and she has to introduce herself to.
That's right, and of course, if she's going to have to raise taxes, the legislature are going to make a lot of tough decisions this year, and a lot of that's going to be hung right on Colleen Hanabusa's neck. And so, okay,
or they won't make any tough decisions, which is the usual pattern for our legislature.
Which could be then a special election. I mean, a special session of the legislature or an extension. Come back in August and continue fighting, and whether or not you're going to get that tax increase.
Nobody has looked good. Either party, any public official has looked good in the ways that the budget issue has been handled, and I think that aura is going to carry over.
They got to save this furlough situation. They got to save this furlough situation, and she has to look like a white knight. Something strong like that has to save her candidacy.
And of course, Ed Case, he's had the benefit of being on the sidelines for a long time, so he can just kind of pick and choose the issues that he says, hey, no, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. You were talking earlier, Richard Barreca, about how he's already kind of thrown a couple shoes over Hanabusa's way.
That's right. You know, and it shows right on that he is perfectly capable of bringing the campaign totally to her and attacking. And first of all, by attacking that she's in the Senate, she's doing two jobs at the same time. And the second one is just to then blame her for everything the legislature does or doesn't do.
All right, and let's move over to the city side of things real quickly. We're talking about the mayor's race, and we did some polling numbers on the four possible candidates there.
Just to make things clear, though, we didn't do a head-to-head type thing. We didn't say, okay, if the election were held today, who would you vote for mayor? What we did was we just told the voters, look, here's some people, they're in public life. Do you recognize them, and how do you feel about them? And some of the most striking number here is the incredibly high favorable rating for Peter Carlisle. Then you see Donovan De La Cruz hanging in there with a fair amount of recognition, although very neutral recognition. Kirk Caldwell, the managing director of the city, who a third of the voters say they don't even recognize his name, and Rod Tam with a 40% negative. That seems to be the headlines of that poll.
All right, first of all, gentlemen, Peter Carlisle has got to be probably the happiest man in the state when it comes to these poll numbers that Star Bulletin and KITV did.
When there started to be discussion about him running for mayor a while ago, my first reaction is, why would anybody want to give up being prosecutor? It's a great job. The public loves you. You get to pick your cases. You have to do some kind of management stuff. It's a highly visible but a very selectively visible sort of office. And you see it kind of carrying over here. What is amazing is the size of the difference.
You know what I thought of this way? I thought of Elliot Spitzer, the New York Attorney General, who became governor and then had this spectacular fall from grace. That's one of the bad things. One bad thing happens, and the good guy image is shattered.
You know, on the TAM high negative numbers, 40% negative. I checked with some political operatives yesterday about what does an unfavorable rating mean to you for your campaign, and they say almost always unfavorable cannot be gotten rid of. If you have an unfavorable rating, that's going to stay with you for the entire campaign. If it's neutral, that's good. You can work on neutral, and favorable is good, but it can go up and down. But unfavorable is you're going to be tagged with for the entire campaign.
We talked about the spin that we were getting from politicians. Donovan De La Cruz and Kirk Caldwell both told me, I'm in a great position. And in fact, from what you just said, that's actually true.
I'm sorry, Doug. We're going to have to cut it off right there. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Professor Neil Milner, Richard Brecker of the Honolulu Star Bulletin, and our own Daryl Huff for our political roundtable. Hopefully we can do it again as these elections become closer. And we'll be right back with traffic and weather.